Hi guys, my name is Henry Tenby. Welcome to this edition of Model Moment. I've got a lot of great information to share with you in this show. I've got a lot of neat models and stories and reader feedback to present. It's going to be an interesting show, and we're going to get right to it after this quick word from our trusted sponsor. I'd like to invite you to try my new aviation streaming service that I created for fanatics just like us. It's called JetFlix TV. There are over 1,000 full-feature aviation videos and movies on JetFlix TV, which you can stream to your favorite device, and you get unlimited access to JetFlix TV for a very low price. We're talking less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. At JetFlix TV, we have many categories of aviation films to satisfy every interest and passion, including Russian aircraft, classic prop liners, classic jetliners, vintage post-war military aircraft, trip reports, airport reports, you name it, it's there. So there's a link in the upper right-hand corner of this film right now that you can click on, and it will take you to a page where you can sign up. You can enjoy the entire JetFlix TV platform, watch as much as you want, and decide if it's for you. I look forward to seeing you at JetFlix TV. As you can see, I've got a steel mess in front of me, and you're probably wondering what's going on here and why are we talking about destroyed models? Well, there's a whole lot of reasons why we're talking about destroyed models. So for those of you that can see, this is bits and pieces of a 150th, former 150th F-27 model. And I recently acquired the model from a friend of mine, actually. And when I got it, actually, it wasn't in perfect condition. There was a minor issue with it, and I tried to fix it. And in the process, I completely destroyed the model. So I think it's important to explain what's going on here and why we're looking at a heap of wreckage. So first of all, those of you that recognize this, you're probably thinking, oh, that's a Verkyle 150th metal model. And that's what I thought when I bought the model. I thought, oh, this is a 150th Verkyle model, and I would refinish it. So I purchased it, and it arrived, and one of the wingtips was actually had a pronounced bend to it. And let's kind of show you kind of where that was. Where was that bend? Let's just see if I can find the right pieces here, guys. Yeah, so this particular wingtip had a bend up on it. So what I did is I took my trusty mallet, and I have perfected this technique, so I thought, over many decades, and I just tapped the metal to try to get it to straighten up. So it was kind of bent up like that, and I just wanted to straighten the wing out. And when I set the model down and hit it, well, basically the whole wing shattered. From the out, it just basically went to pieces. And I thought, wow, what the hell's going on here? And when it shattered, I realized this whole thing is hollow. As you can see, it's hollow. And I also realized, if you can have, it's not aluminum. This is not a cast aluminum model. It actually looks like stalactites in there, or some kind of strange material, right? Almost like a cross between sand and some kind of hard glue. It's hard to say. It is metal, but this is pot metal. This is not an aluminum model, and this is not a Verkyle model. The whole thing is very, very crude metal and super soft. I mean, you can basically pull this apart with your hand. Oh, there, I just pulled that off. You can pull this whole model apart with your fingers. So this is something that no, I won't do it, but this is something that is very strange. I think we need to be aware of what we're looking at here. It's not a Verkyle model. This is a model that I believe was produced by the Fairchild Aircraft Company in perhaps the late 1950s. They must have got a model from Verkyle and used it as a blank to make these cheap knockoff Fairchild 27 models, not using proper aluminum, strong aluminum like the real aircraft. This is pot metal. This is very poor quality. It's hollow. And it is, I mean, you can hear that. It's almost like lead. Can you see this bit here? Watch. If this was aluminum, well, I won't do it because I don't want to cut myself, but it is very weak, and I can bend that in. So, and I can probably, with the right amount of twisting, actually torque the whole fuselage. This model is scrap now. It's obviously ready, you know, for the dustbin. What we have to realize is if we ever get a model and we believe it to be a Fairchild produced model, don't touch it. Don't touch it one single bit, because if basically the problem, I'll show you, someone had actually put a clear, not a clear coat, they had put a paint on this, and it was all bubbling up. And I thought, okay, well, I'll straighten the wings out, I'll sand it down, and I'll repaint it. Unbeknownst to me, of course, it was made out of this hollow pot metal, but the paint was already reacting, which you don't get happening on aluminum. I don't know if you can see that. But there's all kinds of bubbles on that, which is, well, I don't know if the camera's picking it up. But once this side of the wing shattered, I took my mallet, because one of the tails was also broken, and they just came right off. It's like plastic. And the whole, with the first strike, the whole thing just cracked like an eggshell. And I mean, it just basically all ripped. It all just ripped open. And imagine an eggshell breaking. Well, that's what happened. It just crumbled on its own clumsy weight. So if you're going to deal with one of these models, my advice is to keep it as is. You don't try to repaint it. Listen to that. That doesn't have a ring. That has a thunk, thunk, thunk. That is the sound that you're going to get when you get one of these models. And also, the telltale sign is that it's hollow. So if it's not solid, and basically it's not like a baseball bat and solid metal, and you get a nice ring out of it like you would on a normal model, don't touch it. Don't try to straighten anything on it. Don't try to paint it. If you think that you're going to refinish one of these models, you can't, you won't. It was a couple $100 lesson for me. I thought that I was going to be, refinishing it in a nice airline color scheme, but it wasn't to be. And as we collect models in this hobby, sometimes you do put money out and get something that isn't quite what you expected it to be. And that is the cost of doing business in this hobby. It happens. And we just have to take the rolls with the punches and learn. And I just wanted to share this experience with you so that you would know what to look out for when buying these models. Now, these Fairchild F-27 models were actually produced in various airline liveries, mostly US carriers, some Canadian, I believe, and a lot of corporate carriers. They had, generic corporate schemes that these models were made in. But again, I don't know if you can see, but it's all shiny and like sand. It's just, yeah, I'm pretty confident that this is pot metal. So what am I going to do with this model? Well, I'll tell you why I'm not going to put it back together. Could you imagine, gluing this thing or epoxying it back together, filling all the seams, the amount of labor that you would put into investing into this model, into giving it a beautiful finish, only to have the paint react, or one knock and a wing comes off, or the whole thing comes to pieces. It is absolutely not worth it. It's not worth your labor or my labor to put any time into refinishing this model. It is a write-off. It would be a very poor decision to try to put this thing back together and then invest all the time and labor in trying to finish it. So what am I going to do with the model? Well, guys, this is my recycle bin. This is what has to happen to this model. It is scrap, and it's a lesson learned. And I think that we have all learned a lesson that with this type of model, you don't want to touch them. You want to leave them as is. My advice is not even to buy these models unless they're pristine. They generally have a lesser value, But unless it's a Verkyle solid aluminum model, stay away from it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it with a barge pole. Run for the hills. And I hope you don't have an experience like I had with this scrap metal beauty. So let's now move on to some more interesting information that I think you guys are going to find really inspiring. Hi guys, what's above me, right here I should say, is an IL-12, an aluminum model. I don't know the origins of this, but this is that ring means this is a cast aluminum model. This is the quality that you want. If it doesn't ring like a ring in a bell, you don't want to go anywhere near it. But this is not pot metal. This is beautiful aluminum. Look at the lines on this model. It's absolutely stunning. It's obviously from the 1950s. I don't know if it's a ID model that was made in the West or if it's a production out of the Soviet Union from the 1950s. But the type, of course, the IL-12, it came before the IL-14. So the telltale sign is the triangular tail. And the model itself, the design dates from the late 40s, early 1950s. And isn't this a gorgeous model? Well, have a look here, guys. It actually came with this stand. And as you can see, it says IL-12D. And it's a big hunk of granite with a name plaque. But the thing is, the stand, when you put the model on the stand, it goes on like this. It looks absolutely terrible. So I'm not going to use this stand because it doesn't treat the model right. But as I think some of you know from my earlier emails and videos, I have produced a series of tripod stands for aircraft display model collectors because I had so many models that needed to be put on stands and I didn't have the stands. So I'm selling these stands. You get 5 heavy gauge, 5 lesser gauge. They're all about the same height, 6.5 odd inches above grade. And you get 10 for $125. And I'll drop a link in the description, the video description below, in case you'd like to purchase one of these sets. I do have a limited number, so once they're gone, it'll be a while before I order any new ones. But I just wanted to use this model as an example of how an existing stand makes the model look grotesque, but when you put the model on one of these replacement stands, it looks absolutely freaking fantastic. So when you put it like that, I mean, look at that. It looks absolutely killer. I mean, the line, it's just beautiful. This is how the plane should be presented with the correct dihedral. Isn't that neat? So yeah, if you're interested in one of these sets of stands, drop me a message. I've got the link below, and you can order your set of 10. You want to take advantage of this before I do sell them out, because as I say, it will be some time. But I thought I'd use this beautiful IL-12D model as an illustration of just how nice these stands can present your model and release them from their sitting on the bellies in your collections. So there you go. I just thought that was a kind of neat way to showcase my stands with you guys. So I hope you found that interesting. Well, I never thought that I'd go there, but I have recently acquired my first few helicopter models, which I'm going to share with you here in this video. Just perhaps 6 months ago, I was brought into the frequency of helicopter model collecting by a gentleman by the name of Bob Petite of Edmonton. And he is a lifelong helicopter fan, historian, writer, journalist, and he collects helicopter models. He's got an absolutely fantastic collection of display model helicopters. He shared some of his images with me, and that motivated me just to keep my eyes open for the occasional helicopter that might come my way. And lo and behold, some helicopter models did present themselves to me, and these are some of the first helicopter models that I've added to my collection. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Bob Petite. He is a Canadian, and he's been an active slide photographer, historian, as I say, and he has written this amazing book on the Bell 47 helicopter. It's called the Bell 47 Helicopter Story, Birth of the Commercial and Military Helicopter Industry. And this thing is a Bible. It is hundreds of pages. Look at that. I mean, you could spend a good number of weeks reading this book. And Bob sent me this book, and I am absolutely impressed. If you love helicopters, U.S. military aviation, this book is for you. It is jam-packed with pictures and information and manuals. And lo and behold, I was absolutely amazed that Bob included a whole section on helicopter models in his book. Now, how many other aircraft books do you see out there that are not all about models, that include a section about the models? Rarely seen it, very rarely seen it. So kudos to Bob for including that. Now, if you're interested in Bob's book, it was produced in 2013. It was a true labor of love, and I don't believe Bob had much help from the Bell Helicopter Company. I think it was mostly private contacts that supplied him with historical information and photos and inside knowledge of this great helicopter that he was able to produce the book. So if you'd like a copy, I'm going to put Bob's contact information in the item description below, and please do tell him that I referred you to his book. But to have a look at some of my models that I've recently acquired in this space, look at this gorgeous model. It's a Chinook. It has clear perspex windows, and this is a Chilean Army example. It doesn't have titles. I might put the titles on myself, but it is such a nice model. The fuselage is, well, it's clear. You know, the windows are clear, and there's cockpit detail in this. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous model. I believe it is made by Piaget of Italy. And their work is this is like Westway Models, factory model quality of model. And it's so accurate. And yeah, I mean, the lines on it are just gorgeous. I love it. There's no maker's name, but again, I am quite sure this is a Piaget model from Italy. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes out for more of these models. And I really do recommend them. Isn't that a gorgeous model? It's fantastic. I think there's a whole story to be told about Piaget and his model factory in Italy, and I hope to bring you more information on Piaget models in future editions. This model is a Sikorsky S61. It's a civilian version of the model, and also with a clear cockpit. I believe this is a topping model. Again, I just like it because it's so nice and accurate. It's a model, well, both of these aircraft types are near and dear to my heart because here in Vancouver, you can see both of these types. The Canadian Armed Forces, of course, had these, do they still, or they've just retired the Chinooks, the labs, quite recently. But since the mid-60s, the Canadian Armed Forces have had these in service. They were a staple at the Abbotsford Air Show. So growing up, all through my formative years, I saw these helis perform at Abbotsford, and they're as Canadian as maple syrup, really. So how could I not have one in my collection? And the same for the S61. Have a look. It's actually got I don't know if you can see it, but it does say S61 on the base here. The S61 is a very popular West Coast helicopter. Okanagan Helicopters had them. Colson, many other West Coast operators have had them, and they've been a staple on the BC coast as well, and have been very frequent Vancouver-based machines for decades. So again, I just like these models. They weren't they weren't something that I had seen before, and they were unique. And I thought, yeah, these are nice pieces to add to my collection. So if you have any helicopters or are thinking of getting into them, it's something that I suggest you have a look at because they're quite unique. I think they're collectible, but I think it's an overlooked area of the marketplace. Not too many people are collecting them, and perhaps that's why prices on them are pretty reasonable. But again, they're not for everybody. They're some you might say that they're an acquired taste. So I've acquired the taste thanks to Bob. Thanks to Bob S. Petite, or if you're Googling him, it's Robert S. Petite. And again, highly recommend this book. And welcome to the world of helicopter collecting. Well, it's very unfortunate what's happening in the Ukraine, and of course this means that purchasing models from Russia and Russian manufacturers and even Ukrainian manufacturers is off the table for the time being. Our wish is that this situation will resolve itself soon and we can get back to our model collecting and dealing with our model friends and fellow collectors in both the Ukraine and Russia soon. But in the meantime, I would like to share with you some models that I was able to acquire just before this situation developed. I found the manufacturer that actually supplies aircraft display models to both the Sukhoi and the Beriev factories in Russia. And I placed an order with them, and luckily that order got delivered to me very recently. I was not sure if it was going to be delayed indefinitely in the postal system just because of what's going on over there. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I received the models, and I'm going to share them with you just because they're quite unique. So how often do you see a Beriev 32 display model? This is again, it's from the Beriev factory, made by the maker that supplies the models to the Beriev factory. And this, I don't think this went into service. I think it was more of an experimental plane. I guess it was about a 30 passenger turboprop, maybe a bit bigger than the Let 410 that was being developed by Beriev in Russia in perhaps the 1980s, and it has the AN 24 wing angle drop down. So I'm not sure what the scale of this is. I'm guessing it's 1/72nd, but it is a very cool air model. It's got aluminum turn propellers, which is cool. And of course the finish is really, really nice as well. This is an amazing model. This is a float plane. I don't remember my Russian types, but I guess it's a World War II airplane. And it was also made by that same company. I'm guessing it might be a Sukhoi or Beriev model, but isn't it gorgeous? I mean, look at that. I mean, the detail with the engine up top here and the struts and the floats. I have a real soft spot for float planes, and being able to get this model is a real treat. I mean, it's totally unique. I mean, again, look at the struts underneath the wings there. The engine detail is very, very nice. I guess that it's a bit of a, maybe it's a jet engine intake. I just don't know, but it's just a very, very nice looking model, and the stand is nice, and it presents very cool. So I've got a few more of these models to share with you as well. So these two models are AWACS variants of the IL-76. I believe they're called the A50. And these models were also made by the Beriev factory model shop. And again, the workmanship is really, really cool. I'll show you each model one by one. I mean, look at this. I don't know if you can see it, but there's kind of a hydroplane, or it's some kind of an extra winglet right here. If you can see that, which is, I didn't even know that existed on this airplane. But yeah, the radome is cool on it. It's a modified IL-76. They finished this off with I'll call it a matte finish. It's not a high gloss finish, but it still looks really gorgeous. I mean, the shape is of course accurate. The factory stand. I was really hoping to establish a business relationship with this company, but again, with what's happening over in Russia and whatnot, that certainly can't happen until we have normalized geopolitical relations back in place, and I hope that'll be soon. But I think everybody wants to get back to normal business. We want to stop the hostilities, and the world wants to settle this matter in a peaceful way. But for us model collectors, of course, the Russians do produce really, really nice models, and they are masters, that's for sure. I mean, look at the engines. I mean, even the spinners, the blades are visible there. It's presents very, very nice. I'm not sure what the scale is. I'm guessing maybe it's 1/44th or even 1/200th. The model's about, I don't know, a foot long, maybe something like that. But yeah, they look at the wing details. It's just presents nicely. And then here's a slightly different version of the aircraft. This is painted in all gloss. Also a nice model. I'm not sure which one I like the best. But if you look at the radome, they've even got a slight variation on the gray on the spinner there, and they did it off kilter, so you would get the sensation that it's turning or can turn. But yeah, so this is basically a IL-76 AWACS, which they designate, I believe, the A50. And there's many of these in service. And yeah, so very, very cool models. And I've got a few more to share with you as well. So I'll bring them to the video now. So now we get to the Beriev jet-powered flying boats. How unique is that? Well, this model is the Beriev A40. What an incredible model this is. It is so beautiful. Not sure about the scale, but it measures 20 inches long. So I don't know, maybe it's that 1/72nd scale. It's not, I doubt it's 1/50th, but I'm going to say it's probably 1/72nd. But what a gorgeous model on the Beriev factory stand. I was so hoping that we could make these models available to other collectors, because they are just so unique. They are works of art, and the shape is perfect. Again, they're made for the factory. So I had put a lot of effort into establishing contact with this model shop, with the hopes of working with them and making their models available to collectors all through our community. But again, that has to wait until calmer tides prevail. So, but at least I can share these models with you so you can see what's capable. Isn't that such a unique model? I mean, the design of it, it's just beautiful. And then look at this model here. I mean, this model, I guess, is predecessor to the A40. This is, I guess, something from the 1950s. Another jet-powered flying boat from the Beriev factory. I guess it's the same scale. I'm guessing I'm going to say it's 1/72nd scale, because it's considerably, well, not considerably, it's about 3/4 the size of the A40. But the design of it, the shape of it, it's just such a unique thing. And look at the intakes. I mean, the detail is just so nice. The engine exhausts are actually made out of metal. There's just, little details like that. And also you can't see it, but the turbines inside the intakes, they're metal. They're not just plastic. So really nice effort has gone into these models. And I'm just so happy I ended up getting the models. I mean, it could have very easily gone the other way, and I could have never seen the models. So the fact that they arrived is a huge bonus. And yeah, what do you think? Do you like these models? Would you like to own some? I might be open to trading or perhaps selling one or two. If you're seriously interested, you could drop me a line. We could see if we could do something. But again, they are at this point one-offs. I don't know if and when I can ever order them again. So they truly are unique pieces. So for the collector looking for something special and different, this certainly fits that category. And wow, yeah, I'm just impressed with how neat these designs are. What do you think? Would you like to have models like this in your collection? I'm the author of this book. It's the Aircraft Display Model Collector, Investor, and Appraisal Guide. It's about 160 pages of all color information on the values of all the famous airline display model makers from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. So it's an invaluable source for model values. If you don't have my book and you'd like to learn more, there's a pop-out in the upper right-hand corner where you can read more about it and place your order. And I've also placed a link in the item description below. If you already have my book, I'm happy to report that I've started working on the second edition of the book. And with any luck, I'll have that ready by year end. No promises, but it's my goal that I'm working towards. So we'll just have to see. But it's going to include information on how prices have changed for models during the pandemic, and various information that's come to me on the various model makers that produced models in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and it will be a great addition to this version if you already have it in your library. Well, I don't have too many Wesco models in my collection, but this model came into my collection quite recently. It's a 1/60th scale Wesco of Chula Vista 25th anniversary Southwest 737-300 model. It's one-piece fiberglass. I remember when these were first being made in the late 1980s by Wesco. I had a friend, Dick Black, who lived in San Diego, and he was a big customer of Wesco models, and he bought a lot of their models. And yeah, isn't this a nice model? The shape is just beautiful. I do have the stand for it, and yeah, I just thought I'd leave it here as a centerpiece while I go over some reader feedback. So for those of you that are watching my videos that have questions, I welcome your videos. I welcome your model shots. You can send your model shots, your questions, any videos that you've taken on your model collection. I'd love to see it all. So you can send that to henrytenby@gmail.com, and I'll respond and include your information as I am able to in future videos. So thank you very much for that. And again, I love seeing your model shots. Don't stop sending them. So they really make my day. So let's get into the mailbag and see what people have to say. Ken Collins writes, "Greetings, Henry. I have a 1/50th Air Canada 767-300 by Space Models, and it's missing both tail stabs. If you ever come across a pair, can you please let me know ASAP or tell me where I can get some?" Well, Ken, thank you very much for the message. My immediate answer would be to anybody that's looking for standard travel agent display model, Boeing, Douglas, Airbus tail stabs, would be, if you're in the United States, to contact Packman. Just go to their website and you'll get their phone and or email address, and you can call them. Packman can produce pretty much anything that they've historically produced, going back to probably the 1960s. Certainly for newer stuff, like 767, 737, 747s, etc. They can produce the stabs or, engines and whatnot if you're missing a wing. They're not cheap. You're probably looking at a few $100s to have Packman do anything for you. But if the model's valuable enough, if it's a $1,000 model, that's probably going to be something you're going to want to consider because the quality of the workmanship will be first class, and they'll actually respond to you with a price on how they can help. So that would be my first best bet, would be to contact Packman. If you're in the UK, you might want to send an email to Conquest Models or Westway Models, and there's also in Miami, Atlantic Models. You can send them an email too, because they can also help with various parts that are needed for your models. So there's lots of ideas there for you to get these parts delivered in a reasonable time frame. So good luck with that, Ken. So I got a very interesting email from Alex Veltzi in the United Kingdom, who's a huge fan of executive display models. And he writes, "Dear Henry, I'm new to your posts. I was on YouTube looking for anything on executive display models. That era has a real nostalgic pull on me. I work down the road and always pass by their showroom on my way to work." So here is something interesting I remember regarding Brian Tompkins. He said that he was instrumental in designing the color scheme for the Aerospace Line's Super Guppy. It's a long time ago now, but I do remember him saying that. As far as I remember, some prototype color schemes were left up to him and his colleagues to design so they could paint them on the models. Then the model would be presented to the operator and a yes or no decision would be made. I think that's how the Guppy design happened. I had a Sudan Airways 707 3J8C and a couple of others that were really badly damaged in a house move. Well, I've heard that story before from many other collectors. I still cringe when I think about it. Well, yeah, absolutely. Something heavy ended up on them for a prolonged period of time, and they twisted beyond saving. Never mind how much heat I applied, I could not straighten them out. I saved the nose sections though. Anyhow, I really like your posts on your display model collection. I enjoy your videos, and it takes me back to good old days. All the best, Alex Veltzi. Thank you very much, Alex, for that. That was a fantastic message. I really enjoyed hearing from you. And I, too, have many fond memories of visiting Brian Austria Tompkins at his executive display model showroom at the Sheraton Skyline Hotel in the 1980s and 1990s. So, yes, they're fantastic memories that we have. Brian had an amazing business. Con Lee sent me a very interesting email. He says, "Dear Mr. Tenby, I visited your website and I found a lot of interesting memorabilia, especially the original factory models." Now, the website he's talking about is my aircraftdisplaymodels.com website. He says, "I have been looking for a Douglas DC-3 model for a very long time." And he enclosed some pictures of the specific model that he's looking for. "So it would be very much appreciated if you could help me find one of these models, or if you see one for sale. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for your time, Con." Well, Con, as I think I explained to you in my email, these models are very hard to find. What this is a 1/50th metal hollow DC-3 model from probably the late 1930s or 1940s. They were made by a few makers in the United States, the most famous being Rayburger, who I believe was based in Chicago. Rayburger made these models for certainly United Airlines and possibly others. They also made the Boeing 247D, also in a huge 1/50th scale. They might have been 1/32nd scale because they were like this big. And these Rayburger models are very valuable. They typically price in the $2,500 plus range. Sometimes they're mounted on elaborate bases and they have lights installed, and they are hard to find. They do not show up every day. Perhaps you might find such a model on eBay. If you watch the model websites, including my own, aircraftdisplaymodels.com, if you watch eBay, keep your eyes peeled, do searches for, DC-3 metal model, Rayburger, etc. Or travel agent display model, vintage airline model, vintage DC-3 model. These keywords might help you eventually locate one of these models, but you do need to have a budget of at least $2,500. And if you do find such a model, there will be plenty of people interested in them. If it's in great condition, the price could possibly stretch well above the $2,500 mark. So Con, good luck with your search, and I hope to hear from you when you do find that fantastic model. The search will be worth it though, and I can assure you, you'll have an amazing piece for your collection. I then received an email from Sid Thacker, and Sid writes to me, "Hello Henry, I'm an amateur model maker from Ottawa, Ontario. I have been having great trouble finding either a kit or a ready-made display model of a Lockheed Constellation. My father flew in one, a TWA Constellation, from Mumbai to London in 1957. And in his memory, I wanted to acquire one of these models. Do you have any suggestions, as it would be most appreciated?" Well, Sid, the advice that I'm going to give to you is similar to the advice that I gave to Con. Constellation models are actually more common than the hollow DC-3 models from the 1930s and 1940s. By the 1950s, a number of aircraft display model manufacturers were producing metal Connie models, and they're not that uncommon. The raise-up 1/72nd Connies can be acquired in the $300 to $500 range for I would say, a non-pristine one that needs work, perhaps refinishing. One that's in great shape, of course, is going to set you back $1,200, $1,500, or maybe even $2,000, depending on the livery. But the common liveries would be your TWA, KLM, Eastern, etc. Air India is probably a lesser common livery, but there's not that many collectors in Europe that are dying to have an Air India Connie. So the scheme is such that the value on it would be lesser than, say, TWA, Eastern, Northwest, TransCanada Airlines, etc., BOAC. So you may find an Air India Connie model from the 1950s with more success at a lesser price point than we might expect for a North American or European airline. My advice would be to check eBay, and again, the aircraftdisplaymodels.com website. We do have models that get posted there for sale on an ongoing basis, so just click into the models for sale link that's on the home page. If you're on eBay, you want to do keyword searches for Lockheed Constellation model, Connie model, Super Connie model, Vintage Connie model. In time, you will find one of these models, but again, it won't be cheap. If it's in metal, again, you're looking at several $100s. I would recommend that you make the investment and go for a proper travel agency model. If you can get one that even needs to be refinished, you can hire various model makers in the United Kingdom to refinish the model for you, but that will cost several $100s on top of the cost of the model. So there is some significant investment here for sure, but good luck with the search, and I know that you will find your dream model in time, and I look forward to hearing from you when you do, of course. So Chip Ponton from the United States sent me an email saying, Henry, I have my Continental Airlines Viscount model in storage, but I will put it down soon to see if I can find any propellers or discs to make the model look better. Do you have an idea on the cost to get propellers or discs made? I have the original hubs, but they're in pretty rough condition. I'm using some plastic propellers, but they're not to scale. Could you perhaps help me? Well, yes, Chip. Voila, I have various props. These are clear metal discs, and the Viscount spinner actually goes right through that, and I'll show that to you right now. So this is a 1/50th turned aluminum Viscount 800 propeller, and this is the hub that I had turned. So these actually fit on just like that. So I had these custom made, and I do have a limited number available. They were made by a industrial plastic shop here in Vancouver, and I don't have that many left. So luckily, Chip, I'm glad I was able to send you some of these, because they really do make the model look really outstanding. I don't know if the shop that I had make these is still in business, so it won't be that easy. Effort will be required if I want to have more of these made, but at least I do have some remaining, and if anybody does need some of these, you can feel free to drop me a line, send me an email, henrytenby@gmail.com, and I'll see if I can help you out. So there you go, Chip. I'm glad that I was able to help you with these babies. I received another email from Chip Ponton, and it was regarding the stands that he bought from me. He bought one of my sets of 10 stands, and he writes, Hi Henry, my Packman Continental 727 1/50th scale is sitting on a new stand, and look, it's on Continental 727 coach seats. They have arrived. Well, I asked Chip if he would send me an email when he got the stands and let me know what he thought, and my goodness, what I can say is his Continental 727 looks absolutely fantastic on this stand. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm so glad that my stand is earning its keep supporting his 1/50th Packman 727 model. And those seats, those Continental Airlines seats, what a treat. Look at how the center seat is down. The colors are so 1970s, they just look absolutely fantastic. I asked Chip how he got those seats, and he responded, quote, I lucked into those seats. Marshall Pumphrey's had them on display at the Airliners International show at LAX. He happened to have a second set in storage, and they became mine. And I love the middle seat. Back in the day, when they only had 50 to 60% load factors, they would often flip the middle seats down on the cocktail flights in the afternoon to help give everybody a nice mood and ambiance for a cocktail on their flight. So yeah, congratulations, Chip. Beautiful model, beautiful sleek seats. I'm glad my stands are earning their keep in your fantastic collection. So Richard Schindler sent me an email saying, Henry, first off, I love your display model book. I look through my copy all the time. A few of my friends have also purchased a copy after seeing mine. Richard, thank you very much for that. I very much appreciate the referrals on people buying my book. That's much appreciated. So the question is, do you know anything about this model? It's approximately 24 inches long. It's all metal, solid. I've been looking in your book as well as the Lawler book, but I cannot find a match. It belongs to a friend of mine, and he came to me for the answer. I don't have a clue. So if you can shed any light on this model, I'd be very appreciative. Stay well. Thank you for now, Rich. Well, Rich, what this model is a 1/50th scale DC6 Alitalia, DC6B. We can tell by the registration, IDIMO. This model was made in the 1950s by a West German manufacturer called Scharschmidt. Now, Scharschmidt models followed a unique production process. The fuselage was solid aluminum, just as you have, and they had pegs coming out where the wings attached, and those pegs, the wings slid onto them. Now, the wings were made out of tin, and they were very soft, bent and damaged easily, and often the wings would become destroyed over the decades. And in your case, I'm guessing that the wings crumpled and at some point they were discarded. So what you have is what remains in the form of just the fuselage. The wings were, I believe they were like wood frames, and then they wrapped tin around the airfoil. And because the tin was so soft, if you knocked the model, the wing would bend or even come apart at the seams. And I think it was just one piece of tin that they kind of wrapped around the airfoil. And these are very, very hard to find in mint condition or even good condition from the 1950s in the 1/50th scale models made by Scharschmidt. You could have perhaps some wings made, but I think there would be terrific costs to that. You could speak to some of the model experts in the UK, but I think you're looking at healthy four figures to get wings made. Unless they could be cast in resin. I'm not sure about that. You could even talk to Atlantic Models, but the value of this model, hard to say. It's really a curiosity, I would say. It's not complete. There's no stand. There's no wings. Perhaps it's worth a few $100s to the right person. It's nice, it's interesting, but that's what it is. It is a Scharschmidt model from the 1950s. It's what remains of a Scharschmidt model from the 1950s, and it certainly is an interesting conversation piece. And at least we have these to go on, and in the future, who knows, you might find a set of wings, but you could wait a very, very long time. But thank you very much for sharing that question with us, Richard. Well, we are now on the subject of large caravel models. This metal model, this behemoth is a 1/50th Verkyle metal model. It's massive and the shape is absolutely superb. And I'm in the process of getting it into airline livery, but I'm just using this as a photo piece while we review this letter that I received from Neil Newman in the United Kingdom. And Neil writes, "Hello, Henry. Great model moments videos on the difference between the travel agent models and the collector's variety. It's really well put. I didn't know if I ever told you, but I also have the identical French-made 1/50th plastic model of the Finnair Caravelle 10B featured in your video." Now, I'll put the link to that video in the upper right-hand corner so viewers can check that video. I believe it's my last model moment video. So Neil says, "I'm not sure if you know, and apologies if you do, that the engine nacelles are actually made of wood. The model itself that I own is in very good shape It's sharp, the decals are bright, and picture is attached. Well, we're now looking at that picture, and what a fantastic model that is, Neil. Incredible, just beautiful. I mean, the shape, I love the forward angle of the wing there as it attaches at the leading edge to the fuselage. That is very, very cool. Yeah, the shape, just beautiful model. Congratulations. I'd love to have one of those in my collection, but I'm happy I have this girl in my collection. So wonderful. Anyhow, best wishes, Henry, and keep the videos coming. Neil, thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos. I appreciate every time somebody sends me an email message or a photo or a video from their collection. So please do keep those coming. Hans O. Sandstrom sent this beautiful shot of a Linjeflyg Convair metal model. Hans states, "This old Convair 440 Metropolitan has a special place in my heart. I worked for domestic airline Linjeflyg, 1957 to 1992, and it was bought by SAS in 1992. The model is in scale 1/72 from 1961, and it was made by Modelbau Scharschmidt Berlin Charlottenburg II, West Germany. The model is in metal. The opposite side of the metal is better than the one shown in this photo." Well, what an absolutely gorgeous model. It's stunning and such a nice memory for you, Hans. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Hans also included a couple of photos taken when he visited Anthony Lawler and his wonderful collection when Anthony lived in McLean, Washington, back in the mid-1990s. Here we have a shot of Anthony and Hans in Anthony's model room with a beautiful British classic airliner from the 1920s at the forefront. Close-up shot of Hans and Anthony. It's amazing that Anthony hasn't aged a bit in the last 25 to 30 years. It's unbelievable. Congratulations, Anthony. Wow. Our last model shot comes from Jan Starsix of Belgium. Jan writes, "Hello, Henry. I have a 1/60th Air France Vickers Viscount made by Mercator of Spain. The model is in not very good shape, but it has a real vintage quality and is special to me because it is the only model I have ever known with glass windows. Also, the unique side windows of the cockpit are also in glass. Have you ever come across a similar model?" he asks. Well, Jan, no, I have not. I've never seen a picture of a Mercator Viscount before. I didn't even know these models existed. It is impressive. It's certainly large. The metal appears to be very attractive and nicely polished. My only comment would be, personally, for me, the cockpit section is a bit out of scale. It's a bit large, but that is how the model was made, and of course we have to accept it as it is. But for the Viscount collector, it certainly is a very interesting model. And thank you so much for sharing it with us, Jan. Please send your model shots to henrytenby@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to include them in one of my future videos. Well, guys, this brings us to our final destroyed model moment. What I have in front of me is what was basically hard to believe. This was a Nemoto 144th 747 model. It is now in numerous pieces. This is shocking to me. I acquired this model from Japan. It was in one piece. And when it arrived, it was destroyed. I was speechless, gutted. I am gutted. I mean, I've searched, a lifetime for these models. Look at that. You can see. Look at the detail on the model. You can see it says Nemoto right there. These models are so accurate and they're so hard to find. But the reason why they're accurate is because, well, I'm going to share it with you now. These models are made out of a very, very, very fragile resin. The person who shipped the model to me from Japan just took the model, wrapped it in bubble wrap, and put it in a box. That was about 50% bigger than the model. So imagine taking an egg, wrapping it in bubble wrap, putting it in a box like that, shaking the hell out of it in transit between Tokyo and Canada for a 2-week period. What are you going to get when that box arrives in Canada? Scrambled eggs. And that's what this is, scrambled model. Yeah, I was speechless. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I had a person, a friend of mine in Japan, organize the purchase for me. The original seller wouldn't even communicate with me because I was here in Canada, an English speaker, etc. So there is no recourse. This is a cost of doing business. I took a chance. I knew it was a gamble. I knew it was 100%, a Vegas gamble, whether I could actually end up getting the model. But I purchased through my friend in Japan. He bought the model for me, and he organized for the seller to send the model to me. I really wanted the model just to wait in Japan until I could go pick it up. But unfortunately, my friend that was helping me would not agree to do that. He just wanted the model to be shipped to me. So it is what it is. And the model arrived basically wrapped in bubble wrap in a box that was about 50% too big. So inside the bubble wrap was just a bunch of broken parts. I can't wrap my head around how stupid, how inconsiderate the seller could be to put a model like this, just wrap it in bubble wrap and throw it in a box that's 50% too big. It's just, how stupid could that person be? It's really bad karma, in my opinion, to do that to somebody. And something that's so hard to find, something that's so rare, it's actually disgusting to me that this happened. But I'm sharing it with you guys so that you guys can be aware and not suffer this same fate on a moto model that I have suffered. But at least it gives us a chance to look at how one of these models was put together and maybe learn from the experience. Let's get into it, I guess. Let's have a closer look at this model, and at least we can see how these models were put together. So these models are cast around a styrofoam core. The styrofoam core ran from the front to the end of the model. Even in this little tail section here, you can see the styrofoam, and they were, I don't know, what is that? A quarter inch thickness of resin was poured around it. And that's how they got the accuracy, because he poured a very fine resin. So you got, all the scribe lines, but they did not put any metal supports coming out to support the stabs. So I guess, obviously that broke very, very easily. And, to show you, you can see that, it says Nemoto here. Just look at it. The pylon's pulverized, wingtip pulverized. It's just really, really upsetting, actually. And, I'll try to get the model back together with crazy glue, super glue, and see what I can do. But it's just, if you look at, so here we have the pulverized starboard wing. Just, it's just pieces, right? It's all these little pieces have to go back together. Got engines floating in here. Again, some of the pieces are so small. Shards broke out. Like, look at that pylon. Shards came out of the brake. At least Nemoto had a metal, rebar running through the pylon there to hold it together. But yeah, it just breaks my heart, really, because I really wanted to have one of these models in my collection. But you can see it's a green resin, so brittle, so weak. So there's a trade-off. These models are they're like eggshells. They're like eggs, basically. It's something that if it has zero tolerance to any kind of drop or nick, it will break. And wow, and the quality of the workmanship is so beautiful. The finish is beautiful. All the markings are painted on; they're not decaled, from what I can see. And just the level of workmanship is beyond compare. But it wasn't meant to be for me to get one of these models. Who knows how successful I'll be in putting it back together. There are missing gaps in the wing. In the wing areas here, there's missing gaps, so I have to build that up with putty, and it's not going to look great, obviously. Yeah, I'm just looking at this. It's just a nightmare. Yeah, just beyond belief that somebody could do that. It's actually bad karma, to do that to somebody, to, take something that's so cherished and just treat it with such complete disrespect, to simply put it in a box. I mean, how stupid could somebody be? I don't believe that anybody could be that stupid. So I think it's meanness, and I think it's bad karma. And yeah, I'm just processing it right now. I'm just processing the carnage that happened to this model. I got the stand with it, so worst case scenario, I paid $400 for a stand, an Emoto stand, if this doesn't go back together. It won't go back together perfectly. There's, as I say, there will be holes in it, and there's abrasions all over the model. So we'll see what the future holds for this model, but I just wanted to share with you the pitfalls of collecting models. It's not all rosy. It's not all wins. There's lots of contingencies when you order a model from around the world. And if it's not made of metal, you take a chance. If it's resin, they can easily break. If it's an Emoto, it can very easily break. And if anybody out there has one of these models that's not in a pile of pieces and would be interested in selling it to me or trading it to me, I'd love to hear from you. I guess they must have made a number of these for Japan Airlines. I'm guessing they must have made them by the dozens or even more. So they got to be out there, and maybe somebody out there will be kind enough to offer me one for trade or sales. So that's watching this video. But thank you so much for your understanding. If you have any models in your collection that you would like to sell, remember, I'm always a cash buyer, or I can help you find a buyer. So don't hesitate to contact me. Drop me an email at henrytenby@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. If you did like this video, very much appreciate a solid thumbs up. Click the thumbs up. If you have comments, I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section below. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, of course. And thank you so much for tuning in. Happy collecting. Again, if you don't have my book, check it out. And we'll see you on the next video. I'm also a collector of 35mm color slides of aircraft. If you have an aircraft slide collection that you'd like to dispose of or sell or get rid of, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to contact me at my email address, which is shown on the screen. That's henrytenby@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you about your slide collection.